The Vincentian Lay Missionaries, known as VLM, was founded by Father Michael McCullagh from Dungloe in 2002. Working with the Daughters of Charity in Ethiopia, VLM have sent 200 volunteers from Ireland to participate in over 20 projects focusing on education and self-sustainability. These range from developing facilities at Atsi School in Addis Ababa, working on a school for the deaf in nearby Ambo, and supporting women's aid projects in several areas of this vast land. One of their mottos is Education for All, which is reflected by the placement of students from St Paul's and Castleknock colleges in Dublin. This is deeply appreciated by fellow students in Ethiopia.
We get a lot of advantage to be with the Castleknocks and St Paul's students. We are able to talk with foreign people, especially with the Irish peoples. You know, we get a lot of knowledge that we didn't get from the regular school in Ambo. So we get how to communicate with the people with English, especially with an international teachers and students.
This year, Father Michael organised an All-Ireland Vintage Bike Gathering, where he and 3 colleagues from the Irish Veteran and Vintage Motorcycle Club toured Ireland to thank previous volunteers and to raise funds along the way. They set off from the church bar and restaurant in Dublin city centre, where they were waved off by Mary Kennedy from RTEs Nationwide.
Well, first of all, the money is well spent, and the thing I like about it is that it's not a huge global concern. It's one man and his group of volunteers, and he works directly with an order of nuns over there. So everybody who supports this realises every penny, every euro will be well spent. Sometimes, you know, when you're with huge organisations or with government bodies who are, you know, in good faith supporting big projects in the developing world, an awful lot of the money gets lost in administration and, you know, bits and pieces like that, and corruption. But when you have one person who is committed and who is going over there and overseeing it, you can be guaranteed that the money is well spent. So I think that exercises like this, which are on a small scale, they are not going to change the world, but if they change the life of one person, they're worthwhile. In actual fact, this has changed the lives of everybody in this community that Father Michael is supporting. So they are very important. Those are important for raising awareness, because I know things are difficult in this country at the moment, but my goodness, we don't know we're born compared to the levels of poverty that you will see in Ethiopia. They are very, very poor. They need the support of wealthier people such as us. But the nice thing is that I was back in Ethiopia last year for the first time in 7 years, and I saw huge changes, you know, with proper schools. The first time I went, children had copybooks which they had used and then erased and were using again. And now, you know, they just have more supplies. There are some educational aids in some of the schools, and that is because people are prepared to support them and to continue to support them.
They first travelled to Chic and Cheerful in Carlow, and from there on to Enniscorthy, where they were greeted by the South East Honda Club.
Yes, we formed our Honda 50 club here about late last year. I had bought a Honda 50 midsummer, and a few of the other lads, when they saw me with one, they decided they wanted one as well. So a group of about 15 of us now come together about twice a month. This is our starting point, oddly enough, right here at the Sean Kelly Memorial here, and we usually go out for about a 100-mile trip on Sundays.
Host family for the bikers at their home beside Vinegar Hill were Ronan and Sinead Lamb.
They have my wife Sinead has worked closely with Father Michael with the school in the VLM school in Atsi in Addis. She's been out there in 2007 and 2008 working out there with the school.
3 bikers accompanied Father Michael. They were Jim Moran, Garrett FITZGERALD and Jerry FEENEY, who told us of the history of their club.
Just a group of cycle enthusiasts with scooters got together, I suppose, really from the 80s onwards. We used to meet on weekends and go for runs here, there and everywhere. And eventually we heard of the Irish Veteran and Vintage Motorcycle Club, and we approached that club. They welcomed us with open arms. About 60-70 was joined in 1998. And we operate as a section under their umbrella. Our role here today is really to support Father McCullagh and the VLM in their endeavours to raise funds for what we feel is Seriously well-run organisation, the VLM.
The group then made its way through Dungarvan and on to Coláiste na Rinne in the Waterford Gaeltacht, before passing under the famous Clock Gate in Youghal in County Cork. Outside Cork City, they were greeted by the Ballincollig Vintage Car Club.
Well, I think it's outstanding, and I think more of this is badly wanted in the country. And the way things are now, the only thing we have really is our bit of fun, our vintage, and it's the enjoyment. A lot of people raise money for charity. Some do, some don't. It all depends on what the situation is. And the likes of this is what you need.
A function was held in Ballincollig that evening. The following day they passed by many familiar landmarks in Cork City before travelling onwards through Patrick's Well on their way to Limerick City. The next Gaeltacht stop was in Spiddle in Galway, and the local community were out in numbers to greet the bikers, as well as organising a fundraising table quiz in their honour that evening.
People contributed from Barna, way back along the coast road, back as far as Littermode, and there were people there last night from Throwon and Littermode, and even people from as far away as Carna. That's the first time really that the people around here heard of the Vincentian Lay Missionaries, and the great work that they do out in Ethiopia.
Host family in Spiddle was Sean and Barbara Howe.
Having Father Michael there last night and him speaking to the people, and him telling about his work in Ethiopia, I think everybody was delighted to give.
Especially when we announced the amount of money we collected, and Father Michael said, multiply that by 25, he said, and that's the value that'll have. It'll keep a school going for 1 year, a full year in Ethiopia.
Following their visit to the Galway Gaeltacht, they travelled through Galway City and on to Knock Shrine in County Mayo, where Father McCullagh took time out to reflect. They made their way through Charlestown on their way to Sligo, where another reception awaited in the town of Strandhill.
Well, I became involved with VLM in 2008. That was my first time to go to Ethiopia, and I went to teach in a summer project for children in the city of Addis Ababa, because in Ethiopia all second level education is through English. So if the children don't pass an exam or reach a particular standard in English, they're not allowed to go into secondary school. So they're destined to a life on the streets.
Well, this is my fourth time going over to Ethiopia. I originally met Father Michael through my college. I was trained to be a primary school teacher in St. Pat's, and through there I was involved with St. Vincent de Paul Society, and then I met Father Michael through a friend, and I decided I was looking to do something like volunteering involving teaching, so I decided to go out, and since then I've just gone back each year since my first experience was so good. And I just think VLM offer a really good placement, and from going over for the past 6 years I found the development that I can see in the children is just amazing, so I really enjoy going over.
After passing by Ben Bulben and around Mullaghmore Head, it was then on to Father Michael's home county of Donegal. The bikers received a very familiar greeting in the town of Bundoran.
Sean McAniff from beautiful Bundoran, where the sun always shines. It's very important to support Father McCullagh in the work that he's carrying out in Ethiopia. And he supplies teachers out there, makes grants, builds schools, and we are very, very happy to make a donation here today to Father McCullagh, because I have great admiration for that man, and what the amount of voluntary work he puts in is absolutely unbelievable.
They then made their way to Ballyshannon, where they were greeted by Councillor Fonzie Travers.
On behalf of the people of Ballyshannon, on behalf of the Town Council, I just want to welcome them to Ballyshannon, and it's great to see him coming back here. Father Michael has made a major contribution to teaching and education in Ethiopia, and a lot of people from Donegal have gone out there, so we're very pleased to welcome him here to the parochial house in Ballyshannon, and it's great to have him here, and plus there's the three gentlemen that are with him as well.
They took the scenic route through southwest Donegal and made their way to the top of Slieve League, where they were met by fellow bikers from West Donegal. They descended from Slieve League through the beautiful Glengesh Pass and on to the village of Ardra, where another reception was laid on. Biker Garrett FITZGERALD and backup team HAZEL and Arthur MAXON were delighted to be part of the tour.
Well, it was twofold in the sense that with the lads, with the scooters, I've built most of the scooters and restored them over the years, so I was here as backup for the lads and also to take part in it. Also, In the other end of it, I'm a treasurer of the Irish Vintage and Veteran Motorcycle Club, and so I basically look after the money. Any money's taken in, that you sort it out, coin it, bag it, get rid of cash, bank it, and that's basically it.
We thoroughly enjoyed it, especially the hospitality we got in each house. It was unbelievable, and the camaraderie along the line, and we've made friends, especially as us. We're in the camper van, so we now have found 5 more houses which we can call to plug in for the night, and that would be our highlight for the week, apart from meeting all the various different people along the line.
Following brief stopovers in Dungloe and Donegal Airport, the bikers were greeted at their final destination in Gweedore by many dignitaries from across County Donegal.
Ireland's gone through very difficult economic times. We never asked specifically for funds anywhere, and yet the funds came, and we'll have well over 12,000 in this week, and everything we get we multiply by 25, and it'll really benefit the people. And I suppose many times you don't like asking for money, but I just felt, well, we owe it to the children, we owe it to those we work with, and anybody who goes to Ethiopia, they'll come back and say our life will never be the same again. And I'm delighted to be surrounded by some of our young volunteers. They're gathering as we speak here. And our little motto is, do one thing, do something. We'll never be a big international organisation. We live very, very simply. It costs very little to do what we're doing, but from 2002 to the present, our volunteers and our supporters themselves, and you never hear about it, have raised 500,000 euro and sent it out very, very quietly. We've also sent $500,000 out in capital grants and built schools, especially a new school for the deaf. So VLM is in the tradition of Vincent Paul. And it's about reverse mission. It's not about us going and doing great things in Ethiopia. It's about bringing the good news of Ethiopia back here to Ireland.
On November 24th last, Father Stephen Monaghan brought a small group from Ireland to see a number of VLM projects and to raise funds by participating in the Great Ethiopian Run. The work of VLM has improved the lives of many in Ethiopia, but the road to recovery for this great people has still a long distance to travel. Sean Perry reporting for Donegal TV on the All-Ireland Vintage Bike Gathering.